Welcome back, Officers of the Republic. It's your Coruscant Underworld Police Chief, APGAINS, and we're here to talk about the most requested, by far, everyday video that I get. It's the free-to-play problem, the free-to-play problemo. Some hypocrisy, some complaining, some nonsense, some CG sticking their thumb up our butts. Lots of interesting stuff. Before we do, we're trying to get 14,000 subscribers by the end of February. If you want to be a part of that, click the subscribe button. If not, no big deal. Also, boom, link above my head to the APGAINS YouTube channel. It's my second YouTube channel. A surprising amount of death threats over there, and if you want to turn the tide and actually support the PP as opposed to trying to kill the PP, you can indeed subscribe there. That would be awesome. All right, the free-to-play problem. What is it? What's the hypocrisy? What is the nonsense? What's going on here? So the free-to-play problem basically is the divide between capital games and the people who don't spend $100,000 in their game. Now, the reason I say something as so arbitrarily high as $100,000 because not a lot of people spend that much money. It's because a lot of changes happen because of the super end game, the 8, the 9, the 10, the 11 million GP range. Because if you've seen a test account like the Speed GAC they did a couple months ago, you know, these accounts are all full Relic 8, Relic 9. Everything's maxed out. A lot of stuff can't really work at the upper level like it can for 90 to 95% of the player base. A perfect example would be Darth Vader. Darth Vader got a big nerf, and if you see the end game accounts, you know, the 8s, the 9s, the 10s, the 11 million GPs, it makes sense to reduce his damage because of how he interacts with all the dots of Lord Vader. They'd be doing so much damage, and maybe that's acceptable. But I want you guys to go down into the comment section. Tell me specifically how many of you guys, and I know a lot of you guys have been playing for years and years and years and years and years, or have been spending lots of money, and you're in this 8, 9, 10 million GP range, and this actually affects you. But how many of you guys, like me, for instance, I have never seen a Lord Vader outside of one in my squad arena because I have a Super Whale. This would not have affected me probably for the next year even. Like this change, he's still a great character. He still does wonderful things. He's still the best first Zeta, first Relic and such if you're starting a new account. But they make changes. This is just an example of how they make the changes because of that end game, because of that testing, that beta area of the all Relic 8s, all Relic 9s. Because for those people, that does make sense, but it's affecting, and quite frequently negatively, a lot of people who've planned around this. If you've had, you know, non-GL counters, and it was a lot of Zareth, for instance, had a lot of accounts where he had his big game hunting account where it's just all non-GL, GL counters, and then he got absolutely shafted by, you know, the great nerf of 2021 back in the day, and still taking time to catch back up. And a lot of people, I mean, you can still use Vader in an EP Vader Mara Jade counter against JML, but then they changed the Jedi Knight Revan AI to counter Mara Jade because people were using, you know, 3-star Mara Jade, and it wasn't incentivizing them to spend a bunch of money to Relic Mara Jade day 1 to get the counter to work. And it's instances like that where, you know, a great example. Let's go down to the Galactic Legends. Everyone loves SLKR for some reason. A lot of people rush SLKR. He's great. They've never fixed his face, even though he's super ugly. Adam Driver, please have sex with me. But they're monitoring the DACA zombie SLKR versus Lord Vader. Now, the reason I am so pissed about that, and I've heard people defend it, and this is why it's absolutely freaking ridiculous to defend this kind of change, is this has been in the game forever, and this is just a mechanic. You know, if there's another Night Sister alive, zombie will taunt. Should the solution be change the entire mechanic of the Night Sisters that have been around since Halloween of whatever year that they came out? Like, I use Gear 10 zombie, Gear 8, Gear 9 DACA. This is a mechanic. This is not a bug. This is just how the kits work. This is the essence of theory crafting. This is an extreme example, but you know, how many people are saying, you know, throwing a Queel on a lineup because he gives a bunch of stat sharing, and Queel can make, you know, a team really powerful if he's high rel. Like, this is just how the game works if you don't spend tens of thousands of dollars. You find kits like Night Sister Zombie DACA, you find characters like Vader to do a bunch of damage, and you use them to the best of their ability because that's how you can utilize what you have without spending money. And this is the free-to-play problem, is that this is just how the game is played. Even at the end game, you see Arnold doing SLKR Night Sisters DACA. You see the best players in the world. You see players at 6 million. You see players at 4 million. You see players at every level using this because this is how the game has been created, and this is how the game is being played and should continue to be played. Now, is there an issue that they had absolutely no foresight whatsoever in making the Lord Vader kit, and should they completely redo it to save the event? I would be fine with a complete Lord Vader kit overhaul. He's sucked. He's always sucked. He's easily taken advantage of. They're even adding characters to purposely beat him even better with Iden Versio on the Imp Trooper team. I can't understand that. Sorry if I'm getting into a rant here, but like, this is just how the game is made. You can't make a sorry excuse for a $10,000 character, and then the issue is that Zombie revives because Zombie has always revived. Like, maybe you should have made the kit better. Maybe you should just change it so he can ignore taunt. Maybe you should just make it so his AoE kills Daka, or, you know, add a character that allows him to mark someone or something. But you can't change something that's going to affect 100% of the player base just because 5% of the player base is being negatively affected. We've known about this. People, you can put in fast characters. You can put in Moff Gideon to prevent this thing from happening. This is like, here, perfect example. I go into GAC. I place this Space Jesus Kenobi team. It is not the best Kenobi team. It can be countered. I didn't have enough GP to get Cat or Razor Crest when they came around. I had to power bloat to 4 million GP by the time Maul came out. So I don't have Cat to put in here. I'm literally just a Razor Crest away from Executor. I have all the requirements. I'm getting shafted by the fact that I just hadn't played soon enough or hadn't spent enough money quickly. I placed this team knowing full well that there are teams that can counter this. If I place the perfect Kenobi Cat team, I understand that no one's countering that. But people can counter this. And if I wanted people to not counter this Kenobi team, I would put gas in there. I would, you know, spend a bunch of money for Cat. I would do whatever it takes to make this team better. But I understand this can counter. It's the same thing with Lord Vader. If you don't put in the optimal Lord Vader lineup and it gets countered by a non-optimal SLKR team, that's just because you're stupid. The game doesn't need to change because you don't understand how the characters work. You don't need to change a kit that's been out since 2016 because someone at the high level is placing a Lord Vader team and they don't understand or haven't done the research or haven't done the theory crafting or haven't paid attention to know that you can just put in Maul and another fast character and get around this because they're not placing the optimal. Why don't they use it on offense? Why don't they, you know, bait out the Night Sisters with an easy Night Sister counter, and then by the time they get to the back wall, like, this is the free-to-play problem in essence. And even with Qui-Gon Jinn, I get part of it, but then the GL thing that they threw on top of it is just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Why does something that's affecting 5% or less of the player base have to negatively impact 100% of the player base? This is the most used Omicron, by far, not even close, most used Omicron. And even if they got rid of the offense, the double offense, which is fine, even without the double offense, he's still good. And the problem is not necessarily like I don't use him against GLs, but taking away the Night Sister Daka SLKR, taking away the Lord Vader so he could counter Rey, taking away the Mara Jade with the buff to the Jedi Knight Revan AI, which destroys that JML counter. Like, it's these small changes that are affecting the entire population just because either they couldn't have had the foresight or do the testing at a lower level earlier, or they're just catering to the people and in the top 1%, top 5%, and negatively affecting everyone else. Like, will we still survive? Yes. Will we figure out a way around all of this? Yes, of course we will. But what's the purpose of moving the phrase up? Just to say, oh, you don't get the offense if there's a Galactic Legend. People are like, oh, yeah, you can use, if you're baiting out a Galactic Legends, it's still good. But then refund it, because I was under the impression that I could, you know, even after, I knew they were going to reduce his offense. They've been saying that forever. So don't even freaking come at me and say, oh, you knew they've do. I knew they were going to reduce the offense. I knew he was still going to do a ton of offense. I still knew he would be viable against GLs, you know, assuming he dies first. You throw in Anakin, you throw in Katamundi, whatever. I was under the impression that they would not completely change the kit. They would just fix the numerical part of the kit that was broken. But then they just went around and changed it, and they won't refund it. And I don't have another Omicron. Most players don't have another Omicron. Most players are not getting this back. Some players would have liked to spend a TW Omicron, like a Phasma Omicron, because, you know, maybe they were rushing SLKR, or maybe it would help their guild more, or maybe they want to throw Zam, who's now a better Omicron. But they can't do this because they're making these freaking ridiculous changes for no reason. For no reason. And if you're going to make a ridiculous change like this, like when they did the great nerf, they refunded a bunch of R8s. Just refund the Omicron. I'm sorry. I'm pissed. I have to end the video before I say anything too bad.